then we turn west, and we turn north, and then we turn south as a sign that we reclaim it all. There isn't a part of this planet that doesn't belong to us. There isn't a part of this cosmos. All the suns, all the stars, all that exists, we created, and it is ours. So let us do it together as we say, to the east, we reclaim all that is ours.
To the east, we reclaim all that is ours.
Bring it into our heart.
Bring it into our heart.
We turn west. We reclaim all that is ours.
We reclaim all that is ours.
Bring it into our heart.
We bring it into our hearts.
We turn north. We reclaim all that is ours.
We reclaim all that is ours.
Bring it into our heart.
Bring it into our hearts.
We turn south. We reclaim all that is ours.
We reclaim all that is ours.
Bring it into our heart.
Bring it into our hearts.
Empowered
Empowered
by all of creation,
by all of creation,
we shall rise.
we shall rise
And bring our countries to their place.
and bring our countries to their place.
Number one.
Path to liberation. Sister Bayyinah told you about the revolution within that must take place. And without that revolution, nothing else about liberation is going to be possible, because we have done everything. And she was talking about having this money, and we have the guns. In America, we have guns. And we kill 5,000 and 6,000 of our own people every year with the guns. We got plenty of guns. In America, the black community have money. In the last 6 years, we've spent $6.5 trillion with our enemy. Do you understand? Not $1 billion. $6.5 trillion Black Americans have spent with their enemies. And we cry about being poor when we've given the enemies wealth beyond anybody's imagination. So there's something else wrong. So my thing is simple. You don't know your history. Most of you don't even know the history of your mothers and fathers. You don't know the history of your grandmothers. You don't know the history of your great-grandmother. So if you don't have access to your personal lineage, you really can't talk about having access to the lineage of your elder ancestors from around the world. And until we can do that, until we can learn our history, we're the product, let me recorrect that. Until we can learn, yes, our story, our street, Sister Bayyinah called it our street, our story. Until we can learn our story, we're the product of his story. And remember, his story is about how he raped, beat, murder, and robbed you. So if that becomes your story, then you will hate, murder, beat, and rob yourself. So you've got to learn our story and let go of his story. Okay? So that's what I'm going to try to walk through. Usually I have somebody do this, but I'm going to do it by myself and see if I can stay focused. No, I'm going to put you to work. Doctor, you will work with me? Just touch the B. I can set it back on the desk for you if you wish. No, just touch this thing. And then I'll read. So I'll sit beside Dr. Bello. See that works?
Yeah.
Now, and I don't even need my glasses when I'm far away. So we are talking about African. By African, we mean the original human. I want you to be clear about this, because everybody's talking about equal. I am not equal to Asians and Europeans. So let's stop it. By African, we mean the original human on planet Earth. Africans, the first and only human creation to evolve from what we call God the divine, or beings having this human experience. Africans probably said, is God having a human experience. All other human groups are but mutations of the African gene pool. And when we get into genes, we want to talk about our genes in this sense. I want you to think about it as we go along. The genes, the DNA of God the divine. Ancestors are your pedigree. You learn your pedigree from your history. God, or the thing we call the divine, is your original ancestor. A people define themselves by referring to their origin. We are the best of our ancestors' genes. We are the latest version of our ancestors. We are the highest tech version of our ancestors. Our children are the best of our genes, the latest version, and the highest tech models. African Americans, where I come from, that tribe, we're like the third largest African nation in the world, Nigeria being the first, Brazil being the second, and North American African American population being the third. Yet you would not know that by our behavior. African Americans suffered from 250 years of slavery in the United States of America, 90 years of Jim Crow, that's the legal slavery when they said it was abolished, 60 years of separate but equal, that's when they said we had equal rights and the right to participate in the government, 35 years of state-sanctioned redlining, that means the banks would not allow us to borrow or invest the monies we were making, and through all of those years we endured centuries of great murder, social, cultural, political, and economic genocide. And this is one of our great teachers, and I hope everyone would buy his book, The Miseducation of the Negro, and read this book over and over again, and if you read it before, read it again. He said, when you control a man's thinking, you do not have to control or you do not have to worry about his action. He will find his proper place and will stay in it. You do not need to send him to the back door. He will go without being told. In fact, if there is no back door, he will protest until one is made for his use. His education demands it. Dr. Wade Noble's one of our great teachers and big brothers. He's 2 months older than me, so he insists that I've got to be probably, he's the big brother. He said, I have been taught that people without accurate and appropriate knowledge of the history suffers from a shattered consciousness and a fractured identity. A true study of history allows one to tie bits and pieces of their scattered historical information together. This would allow us to develop foresight, to create goals for our future, insight, to know your present condition, and hindsight, to learn from your past. Sister Nyala Van Zandt, who's one of our teachers in America, a young lady who have grown, I knew her since she was 15 years old. At that point, she was an initiate in the Yoruba community that found this foundation in New York, and as an imam, I opened my mosque to allow the Yoruba community to meet there because they had no place else to go. Of course, I had to face the wrath and the guns of the rest of the Muslim world who thought that was sacrilegious in Islam. But we stood our ground on the issue. To truly know yourself means to become fully aware of both your divine and human nature and to utilize the knowledge as a basis of choice in all aspects of life. The cells in your body react to everything that your mind says. Negativity brings down your immune system. And there's a book she did on spiritual science. It is far more useful to be aware of a single shortcoming in ourselves than it is to be aware of 1,000 in somebody else. That's the Dalai Lama. And I did have an opportunity to meet with this brother, share a podium with this brother, to talk about the essence of traditional religions in Trinidad. I think it was back in the early 90s. We must develop the perspective, purpose, skills, and the knowledge to function in ways that enhance our survival and development. One of our great ancestors, Dr. Asa Hilliard. In short, our enemy have succeeded in taking away our human beingness. And take that line seriously. What was taken away from you is your human beingness. Your human beingness is your ability to be the totality of divinity, which is the totality of creation itself. He has taught us to separate ourselves from nature, and then tell us we have a God, then teach you to separate yourself from that God, and then make that God in his image and begin to give you instructions on how to behave. So we have to take that line seriously. In short, our enemy has succeeded in taking away our human beingness. The transatlantic slave trade and chattel slavery shattered our sound mental health. Jim Crow, black codes, and racism stifled and blocked our mental health and well-being recovery. As a result of cultural genocide, spiritual genocide, intellectual genocide, economic destruction, we have become, and listen to this one good now, we have become nothing more than social and cultural holograms made from fragments of white European social process and culture. Itself is nothing more than poor imitation of fragments from the periphery of the African spiritual system. Now y'all need to read that before I move forward. They destroyed the material and spiritual world in which Africans created and recreated themselves. If a race, according to Dr. Woodson, has no history, if it has no worthwhile tradition, it becomes a negligible factor in the thought of the world, and it stands in danger of being exterminated. Dr. Carter G. Woodson. And this is one of my favorite fathers. Obi, when you weren't here yet, this man was talking into your mother and father. This is the Dr. John Henry Clark, one of our great ancestors. He said, history is a clock that people use to tell their time of day. It is a compass they use to find themselves on the map of human geography. It tells them where they are and what they are. That's why history is no little thing. Our story is an important thing. Without it, we can't survive. Yoruba history and culture, and this is a quote I think from Professor Akinjobin. He said, however, we will define history as the understanding of the process whereby a group of human beings come to be where they are at the time of the study that somebody undertakes. Not only human beings, but also inanimate objects have a history, like a rock. You would think a rock don't have a history, but a rock came into being. And in coming into being, it still gives off energy every day, all day. And that energy impacts you. So the white man will tell you it's inanimate, it's nothing, it's a rock. But it is a part of your very being. It communicates with you. And if you listen, you'll learn how to communicate with it. Not only human beings, he said, but also inanimate objects have a history. But we will only concern ourselves in this discussion with the relationships of human beings. But I don't want you to forget your friend the tree, who gives you all that oxygen, then absorbs all your carbon dioxide poison. And without it, we would die, and we don't even give them respect. So don't forget the inanimate as we deal with this question of our human beingness.
I just got a message from the back that needs to speak louder.
Oh, sometimes I think microphones don't like me, but I'm gonna put it up to my mouth. Yoruba history and culture. According to I.A. Akinjobin, one of my professors, in actual fact, and listen to this definition, I've got a long definition of culture. It's because culture is not dancing, culture is not poetry, culture is not the dress you wear or the dashiki you wear. Those are tools of culture. We need to learn what culture is. Culture consists of all the items in the life of a group of human beings, which make them, in this particular line, which make them to feel belonging to one another. Let me do that again, because that's the most important line in the definition. Culture consists of all the items in the life of a group of human beings which make them to feel belonging to one another and distinct from any other group around them. It comprises their language, religion, dress, social system, economic system, political system, food, leisure, medical system, and technological knowledge. Dr. I.A. Akinjobin further states that culture is not static And this one, I'm going to do a little thing for some of my Yoruba brothers and sisters who I know in the room, as much as you're being quiet, is that it is dynamic, and this is important. Certain items that are no longer useful at a particular period in a particular culture can be discarded, and are usually discarded in favor of new items that would suit the circumstances of the time. We are trying to reclaim our traditions in the Yoruba, in the Akan, and the Kemetic. And so we go back in time and get lost back there. I'm interested in knowing how are the tools of our ancestors designed for the circumstances and the time they designed it is useful for me today. But I must first learn them through history, study them through cultural practices, and then eliminate those useless things and bring forward the useful things, and then use the knowledge of that to redesign and to design new instruments to fight against the oppressors. This one I put in because I'm now speaking to the Judeo-Christian Abrahamic minds among us, who in most cases we claim we have left Christianity, we have left Islam, we have left Judaism, but we haven't replaced it with anything. So until you replace it, you're still that thing. So this is a person called Shoshin. He's one of the 22nd dynasty pharaohs, and he's thought to be the biblical Shishak mentioned in the Book of Kings. And this is a statue of him. And in the document called the Bible, he is mentioned as one of the great pharaohs who helped save these people at that time, the Africans, who were called the Israelites. Go to the next one. This is another one of the brothers, brother Taharka, son of Shabaka, succeeds in driving the Assyrian invaders out of Egypt. He is the only pharaoh mentioned in the Bible by his accurate name. Look at this man. And in the book of Isaiah, where he's mentioned, they refer to him as king of Kemet and king of all the world. So if the Israelites are saying he's king of all the world, what's this other stuff I'm hearing about the David and all these other guys? But I just want you to see, for memory's sake, this is an African. This is his portrait, chiseled in granite stone while he was alive, telling you who he is. He looked like a Toussaint. He looked like a Dessalines. He looks like all of the greater Marcus Garvey. There he is, his rendition of himself. That's not a painting. That's a photograph of something he had chiseled of his likeness while he lived. Go to the next one. In that book we call the Bible, I think that's called the New International Version, Deuteronomy 4 to the 9th, it says, only be careful and watch yourself closely, so that you do not forget the things your eyes have seen, or let them fade from your hearts as long as you live. Teach them to your children and to their children after them. So the very book that you use to defend your rejection of history is instructing you that you must teach your children and your grandchildren history. But you don't read your own book, so you don't take good instructions. Go to the next. This is an important photo because there are some white people who use this concept of circumcision as their signature. And yet you can see from the walls of the tombs of Kemet, which was painted thousands of years before they came into existence, we were circumcising. And we obviously know medicine because in this picture, he's wrapping the penis to cut off the flow of blood, so when the foreskin is cut away, the man would not hemorrhage to death. Talk about science back then. Go to the next. I put this up because Canaan is the place we now call Palestine and some call Israel. Just to show you, that's a statue of a Canaanite woman. So these people who are there now, both the Arabs and the white folks, neither belong to that land. There's the lady with her locks who belonged to the land. And their God, the symbol of their God, that is a symbol of also a black man. Go to the next. This is from Nineveh. This is an exiled Hebrew musician, a relief from Nineveh 678 in a museum in Germany, showing the Hebrews with their locks and their obvious African nose, mouth, and beard features. Go to the next one. This is again an ancient Hebrews being taken captive in by the Assyrians from the palace wall. I think this was in the Iraq that they've destroyed. And you can see the Assyrians have the straight hair, the Africans, the Hebrews, have the beaded hair. So we know who that is. Go to the next one. And then the 10th commandment, which is thrown on us, oh, Cecil B. DeMille's and that movie that they made where the thing comes flying out of the sky with the fire and the stones. That's all beautiful, but go to the next one. It all comes from this document, the 40 Principles of Maat, which is thousands and thousands of years older. And go back to the first one. Now, if Moses gave this one to the world, and then in their literature called the Old Testament, they said he's learned in all of the wisdom of the Egyptians. Now go forward. Then this is the wisdom of the Egyptians that he was learned in before he reduced it to 10. So I'm just trying to make a point about why our history versus his history is important for your mental health. Go to the next. This is again to deal with your mental health. Okay. So just look at it for a minute. The first one is Isis, Aset, and Heru. The second is the Ethiopian version, which is known today as the Coptic Church. When that Coptic Church was built, that's 1,000 years before the Catholic Church. Do you understand that this picture, and you can find a similar picture to the middle one, in a temple in Ethiopia called the Church of Miriam, which is 1,000 years older than the Vatican City. That's why history can restore your mental health. This one is painted in the 1500s, 1,500 years after this one. And this is not a story about a special woman named Mary. This is a story about all women. You are the mother of the world. There was never supposed to be a story about Isis. There was nobody named Isis or Set. She's all women. Heru is all children. But by the time it gets over there, it's one special lady and one special child. Total confusion. And so we are now totally confused by their total confusion. Go to the next. This I thought I would present. I like to present this one. This is one of the oldest paintings of Christ, symbolically. There is no Christianity yet. They didn't call their thing Christianity, all right? There is no Catholic Church yet. Christ and his disciples painted on a wooden panel in the Coptic Museum in Cairo. There's the Black Christ, one of the oldest painting in the world, and all of the black men as disciples. But you'll never see this shown anywhere. You know, we brought it out a few years ago, so you see a few of the brothers online now projecting it. But this is how Africans, and the Christ is not a real man, right? You see the light around his head? He's symbolic of what the ancient people of Kemet was calling Ra. And the light, the sun wasn't God. They were saying if anything symbolizes God, the thing that gives and sustains life, it must be the sun. Because if you take that away, everything dies. But then in their understanding, they understood a properly oriented human mind gives off that same kind of light through its practice and wisdom and experience. And that's why this thing called the halo is symbolically around the head. Go to the next. This I love because this is Christ according to the black folks in the Coptic Church. There's no Catholic Church yet. There's no Martin Luther yet. There's no Church of England yet. There's no Protestant church yet. And here's the black man kissing his grandmama. Christ kissing his grandmama, the conception by righteous Anne of the most holy mother of God, Saint Anne, the mother of the Virgin Mary, was the youngest daughter of the priest Nathan from the Bethlehem. Descending from the tribe of Levi, she married Saint Joachim, who was a native of Galilee. Now this is how the Africans saw this thing. If you knew the stories and the people they were talking about, then you would understand there've always been this craft. You call them today the craft of people, voodoo priests, Yoruba priests, but there've always been this craft of sacred scientists who maintained the wisdom and knowledge of our ancestors through time. In the early times, they were called the Levites. White folks have now stole that identity, called themselves the Levites, and have named their family the Levi, and make you think they don't exist yet. Go to the next one. St. Mary of Zion Church, the oldest church in Ethiopia, one of the 10 oldest churches in the world. I've been in this church. Now, Christianity as a construct was not indigenous to African culture. It was an innovation that we came up with after the conquest and invasion by the foreigners in Kemet. So when they first established it in Ethiopia, one of the queen mothers organized all of the queen mothers and burnt all them to the ground, except this one. And this is the one where the oldest painting of the Black Madonna exists to this day. And that's how you end up getting the church that's in the ground at Lalibela. The king went up into the mountains and secretly continued to build churches down in the ground because the women was going to burn them all down because they said it's interfering constructurally with our culture. But that's for another lecture. I just want to show you, when you know your history, it changes the worldview of everything. Go to the next one. This will get you, because the remains of an 11th century AD church in Bayyinah, Sudan. Look at the size of this thing. There is no Vatican yet. And certainly Martin Luther is 400 years away. Or close, more than that. He comes in the 15th century, so he's what? Yeah, about 400 years away. But yet this is a place of worship in the Sudan. That was a part of that movement that became the Christian movement. And they don't let you know that they took something that you had designed for your own teaching and worshiping and turned it into the criminal enterprise that have shed so much blood for the last 15, almost 2,000 years. Go to the next. I'll just let that go. We don't need to get a history. You can go to the next one, Robert. This I thought you ought to see. You see, that's the German Pope, Benedict, and Francis as they're translating power, and in that transference of power, they're praying to the Black Madonna and Child. And this is that other Pope there, I forgot his name, John Paul. And there he is praying in the basement of the Vatican to the Black Madonna and Child. Go to the next one. There's Pope Benedict again in Poland praying to the Black Madonna. Go to the next one. And there's John Paul again playing, remember this Black Madonna is not a statue. They're playing to the power and the essence of the black woman. You understand? The Madonna is not some mythical single individual. It is symbolic. Think of all the things they say the Madonna is capable of. Then you're talking about what the black woman is capable of as the mother of civilization, as the mother of humanity itself. They are praying to this and got you praying to their bastard sister. Go to the next one. And they go, oh, Pope Francis, the first thing he's given when he came into Vatican is a Black Madonna. Go to the next one. So a number of individuals systematically, we talk about organization. Now, what is an organization? I brought you through that to let you know historically somebody has messed with your head. And yet your historical facts is laying all over the place. And you just have to pick it up and look at it and recognize yourself. And so the first thing we must do is organize. Organization is a number, it's so simple, look at that simple, one sentence. What is an organization? A number of individuals systematically united for some end or work. a number of individuals systematically united for some NO work. Go to the next part. System, because it says systematically, right? So what is a system? A group having the same or similar structure and which act as a unit in performing a vital function. An orderly combination or arrangement of parts into a whole. Specifically, such combinations according to some rational principle and methodical arrangements of parts. You can't just throw something together and say it's a system. An orderly, interconnect, complex arrangement of parts. A set of principles linked to form a coherent doctrine, a method of organization, administration, or procedure. Go to the next. And so I say the most complex of all organization is called the family. And we just keep messing it up because we get certain things about our lineage wrong. Family is the primary building block of a nation. Individuals unite to form families. Families unite to form neighborhoods. Neighborhoods unite to form communities. Communities unite to form nations. Go to the next one. I'll come back to why that's so important. The primary motivation for organizing the family, though, is food, clothing, shelter, and security. We don't say that anymore. We say, well, we want to be doctors, we want to be lawyers, we want to be... You want to be that for what? Because if you don't get no food, you're going to be in trouble. And living in England, if you don't get some clothing, you're going to be in trouble. And if you don't have some shelter, you're going to be in trouble. And given the situation, security is essential, or you're in trouble. Food, clothing, shelter, and security are the primary things that's needed for that family, which is the building block of the nation. Go to the next one. In order to really understand that, we have to look at the 6 building blocks of any nation. The individual comes first. And Dr. Bello was talking about that individual must have a revolution. That individual must be reconstructed, rearranged, rebirthed, and retooled in order to be something other than the hologram and clone that most of us are, myself included. I'm trying to come out of my hologramic state and my clone state by learning my history, grasping my culture, understanding the manner in which to create a new worldview for myself. Then the family. The family starts with 2 individuals. And those individuals recreate themselves in what we call children and expand that unit. When that unit is expanded enough and match themselves with other units that have done the same thing, we create what we call an ethnic group, a clan, or a cultural state. And when we live in the urban center, we call that a neighborhood, a community, and then we try to establish what we know as the nation state or a kingdom. Go to the next one. 3 primary areas which a people must organize is culture, economic, and politics. Now we start with the second one. Economics is your ability to exploit the wealth in your ecology. The very word economics itself comes from the word ecology, the echo. But economics is not banking, it's not bookkeeping, it's not money. Economic is the wealth that those things represent and create a science to distribute. So what is the wealth, for instance, when you live here in the UK? You don't have gold mines or oil wells, but what you do have is real estate. And what you do have is your taxable revenue that the state have taken from you under the guise that they will return it to you if you have an appropriate project. But we don't know we're supposed to go and mine that wealth. That tax money that was taken from you, you leave it for others to mine, and you just give it away and let it go. Well, that's the wealth in your ecology. That is called economics. And then the real estate. And what you do with that wealth and that real estate is to create your retail and your wholesale enterprises where you market the food, clothing, shelter to yourselves. To take care of yourselves. You understand? Next one. Now, economics, like I said, it comes from the prefix meaning of the ecology. It is concerned with the relationship between organisms and the environment. So we don't have to go any further. Keep going. Go to the next one. Go to the next one. That gets too complicated. Culture just cultural organization. I just want to do the first 2 lines in this one. Culture, training, improvement, and refining of the mind, morals or taste, to develop or grow. Culture is the tool that gives the people their shared definition of reality, their sense of order, and maintain group integrity. And in the end, as Marimba says, culture is responsible for the rearing, cultivating in a prepared manner, in a prepared medium, the next generation. And in the end, I would say, and it comes further, but culture is what protects the people from genocide. Go to the next. Go to the next one. Go to the next one. Consciousness. I know there's all this big talk about the conscious community. And since people have told me about Sonetta TV, the conscious people, 90%, myself included, if not 99%, are not conscious at all. Matter of fact, some of the people we call the conscious community is the most unconscious people in our community. You know? So we're confusing people's ability to articulate information over this new medium of technology with consciousness. So consciousness, to be immediately aware of, while mentally recognizing, to some degree and extent, one's own inner feeling and thought, or their objective reference. Consciousness, to be mentally alert, well aware of some object, impression, or truth. Consciousness, the power of self-knowledge and internal perception. Consciousness is a product of direct and convincing knowledge, whether of external or internal objects. Go to the next. Spirituality, I'll just read the first one then, because the rest will get too complicated for you. Spirituality is reality. It is being conscious of the moment you are living in, being guided by the wisdom of our collective ancestors and the divine laws of nature. Go to the next. Go to the next. We don't need to go there. Religion, you need to know what that is, because that's been tripping and trapping us for centuries now. Religion, from the Greek word ari, to go back or do over, and ligio, to bind. Check that out now. To do over and to bind. So we practice something that ties us to something. Now, if it was properly done, religion means to bind back. A religious system should bind a people or a person back to the wisdom, the worldview, or culture of their ancestors, and should bring about a belief binding the spiritual nature of a person or group to the supernatural or divine being, as involved in feeling, as the sister was talking about, or dependency and responsibility, together with the feeling and practice which naturally flow from such a belief. Religion includes worship or the reverence of the human spirit for divine seeking outward expression, meaning that any and all things that you will ever know as God is inside of you, and if you don't come up with a methodology to bring it outside of you to create the world that you're in, you're dead. And the religion that we are practicing now does not refer us back to the wisdom or the culture of our ancestors. It refers back to the wisdom and the culture of those who would bind us, who would kill us, who would destroy us. Go to the next. We are but expressions of aspects of the divine essence having this human experience. This is important to try to get into your head and work it. We are but expressions.
You're the Don. You're the Don.
We are but expression of aspect of the divine essence having this human experience. We must know that we are spirits in transition. The great light, the divine, brought out of itself smaller lights. It is only through constant replication that the great light, the divine, continues to exist and know that it exists. Each small light represents an aspect of the personality or essence of the great light, the divine. Yes, we are all expressions of aspects of the divine essence having this human experience.
I can stop there, but there's just one more I really want to go to. Keep going, and I'm going to go just to that one more. There, go back. It's memory and imagination. It is up to the living to keep in touch with the dead.
Thank you.
Man's power doesn't end with the dead. We just move on to a new place, a place where we watch over our living family. The ancestors and the womb, they're one. They're the same. Those in the grave and those who are across the sea, they're with us. They're all the same. The ancestors and the womb are one. Call on your ancestors. Let them guide you. You need their strength. I need you to make the family strong again, like we used to be. Call on those old Africans. They'll all come to you when you least expect them. They'll hug you up quick and soft like the warm, sweet wind. Let those old souls come into your heart. Let them feed your head with wisdom that ain't from this day and time. That was a piece from Daughters of the Dust by Sister Julia Dash. And I got that piece from Dr. Wade Nobles. Go to the last one. This I like because Dr. Noble was trying to give us some significant instructions about imagination. He said the fundamental task and challenge of the African-centered scholarship intellectual is to defend and promote the interest and the image of Africa and Africa's children by understanding the past, present, and future of our human story through the Africanization of the epistemological, terminological, aesthetic, and hermological. Now Wade liked these big words. They all mean something. Groundings of the scientific, aesthetic, and investigative discourse. The African-centered psychologist must simultaneously understand the past, present, and future of Africa and Africa's children, and grow our analytical therapeutic process, clinical restorative healing discourse, curricular design, pedagogy, and the teaching and learning process in an African episteme and praxis, meaning practice. It is believed that the mental health and the well-being of African people worldwide is directly dependent on our ability to imagine. The reconceptualization and reconstruction of Africans, Black people's reality, independently of Eurocentric thought and Western hegemony, white supremacy, conceptualization. Dr. Wade Nobles. And so I'm going to conclude with that, with just another line from Dr. Nobles. And it goes back to what I said in the beginning, we must know our history. Dr. Noble said, history will erase the mystery and allow you to realize the African miracles. History will erase the mystery and allow you to realize the African miracle. History is merely the voice of our ancestry. Thank you.
You've got to do better than that in terms of sharing our products.
Thank you. It's clear to me that time is not going to permit tonight any questioning of our brother. But be assured, and this is your part, that he'll be in Birmingham for 2 days, Sunday and Monday, available to be discussed with personally and to be heard from further
Can
on
you
the
do this
platform.
differently? Sorry, can this not happen while we're closing?
On the platform. So we're coming towards the end. Did I understand correctly that Respect Fire Bingi has to say a few words? Yes, please come. Is he in here? Any single comment or question in the meantime? Yes, my sister.
I have a question for the professor and also for Dr. Bello. What do you think the role of ceremony within the history that you've talked and the revolution, history as a knowledge and the revolution, the role that ceremony plays?
Ceremony.
Rituals are part of life. When our child is born,
You got a mic?
Yes.
thank you.
Rituals are part of life. When your child is born, there are rituals to be done to welcome this child into the cosmos. Of course, traditionally that's how we did it. Bring the child into the cosmos, not just on the planet, not just in the family. And then read what has to be like naming. You have to study the child in order to name the child properly, etc. So the same thing is true during a revolution. Our fighters had to have certain baths to give them strength, to help them to sustain. They had days that they had to wear certain colors, where they had to do certain things. If they were fighting on a full moon or a new moon, there were different kinds of fighting. So there are rituals for every element. The key is, it's not religion where you go on Saturday or on Sunday for blah, blah, blah. It's every second there is a way to do it. How you get out of bed in the morning, you should be very conscious how you do that.
Question here. Where's the mic?
Just,
Yes.
thank you.
Needs to be short and sharp.
Yeah, definitely. Now we're talking about identity and culture, what are some of the fruits that we should expect to see from us personally, or even as a family or as a community, however you want to answer the question?
Got that, my sister? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Great.
Identity. Once you begin to know who you are, you also begin to tap into the power that is yours. You will quickly know that you are becoming yourself as you observe what you are able to realize, to materialize. Remember, this is a world that is in constant creation and recreation. If you brought nothing new into the world, then you know that you don't know who you are.
Thank you, my sister. We're going to hear from our Respect Fire.
Greetings, family. Good to see the family, man. Guiding,
A new generation.
don't know, family. Touch one. Touch one. Touch one, family. You don't know, yeah? Big up the elder, OG professor. You get me? Give thanks for gracing us with the knowledge, you know what I'm saying? Sorry, I was outside. Basically, I was getting a sponsorship from a sister. Basically, if you don't know about us, we've been doing the gang guiding the new generation. If you know about me, I've been in the community for at least 10 years. 9 years trying to wake up the warrior class. And obviously I come to a lot of these events and I see a lot of elders and I didn't see my own generation. And it used to kind of bond me because I'm thinking when it's time for us to inherit this, there's only going to be like 3, 4 of us.
Come on.
So, but I couldn't blame the elders. I had to look at myself and go back into the streets and go back amongst my generation and find ways in which we can engage them into the same conscious struggle that we're all a part of.
Come on.
So basically what we've actually managed to do is we've actually managed to link with generals on the ground in every ends. I can't go to a block or a hood where the brothers don't know who I am. If you know where we are right now, we're in Tottenham. Tottenham and Wood Green have been in a lot of PASA. I can tell you, I've got youngers that are rolling with me from Broadwater Farm, and I've got OGs that are rolling with me from Wood Green. You understand? Like, everyone's rolling on one accord. Don't get it twisted, there's still individuals that have their passes, but there's also talks of truces, and there's real ceasefires going on all around the country, family. Yeah? So I've got to big up the warrior class. Because I haven't gone to one estate and been talking to the man them, and the man them say, nah, Ras, the youngers have to keep on killing each other. No one said that to me yet. You know what I'm saying? They might say, I feel pain because they've taken away my brother, and they're mocking, and I can't really squash that, Ras. But when I'm talking about their little brother, and us changing the cycle for their little brother, everybody is on board. Yeah, and that's where we have to concentrate the energy. Guiding a new generation. It's easier to build stronger children than to repair broken men.
Come on.
But you know, it's an action thing. You know what I'm saying? So we hit the roads, north, east, south, and west. I don't sleep. I'm going from ends to ends. I'm squashing beef. I'm going into schools. I'm getting children who are excluded back into school, because we know that can have detrimental effects. We got young G's that was having fights every day rolling around us, and now they're saying a completely different thing. But we can't continue to talk to the youth. I can't tell my brothers them, stop hustling on the roads. Because if I told them stop hustling on the roads, when they knock my door and told me, yo, Ras, I need somewhere to stay, I don't know if I can put them all up as much as I'd love to. You know what I'm saying? So what we're about now is saying, okay, if we're not going to tell them to just stop hustling, let's create opportunities. Like, I think it's as simple as that. We create opportunities and we invest in them. So we've got a concept called the melanin market. Yeah? This melanin market is basically about what we're going to do. We've already done a couple of them, but what we're going to do is we're going to get 10 youths who basically could potentially be selling drugs or are vulnerable to getting into that lifestyle of some sort of crime. And we're going to get them to be selling books. We're going to get them to be selling music. We're going to get them to be selling clothes. We're going to get them selling natural soaps, natural creams, whatever, you know what I'm saying? And basically, we're going to go to, if we get 50, basically, a sister just dropped me £20. So if 25 people done that, then we can let the youths then know, before they even come, that they're all going to get paid £50 for running the store. So that's already the start. Then, what they hustle on top of that, they can also make profit. You know what I'm saying? So as I got a young G right now, who I went to Croydon, there was one rushed the other one. And the family of that one was looking to get his head bust. And I've had to phone him, I've gone down, I've linked them two up, they wanted to fight at first, and in the end they was hugging, family. So there's hope, family. Yeah, that's a real life story, it's not a fiction. That's a real life story. So that same youth, I took him to a juice shop and he's going to get a job. But that same youth, he's studying business. So I'm saying, yeah, you're learning the theory, but we can actually show them the practical. You know what I'm saying? And when the other young G's see, 1 minute, like, because right now, the conscious community, like, in order to make money, you got to look like money. If you study marketing and all of that, you know what I'm saying? So when the youth them are looking in now and seeing that we're actually putting our young G's on, we're actually, 1 minute, them lot actually made £150 legitimately at this melanin market thing. Like, things are really going on. That's going to make a lot of the other younger ones look in, because that's what makes them look into the roads. You know what I'm saying? The reason why they look into the roads is because they know when electric goes, they can help mommy out. Like, that's why I looked into the roads. So if I had some elders that cared about me, that was investing in me differently, because this is a space where everyone in here has got now a chance to actually directly invest in these youths. You know what I'm saying? We capture that and we put it out, and it gets bigger and bigger. And maybe one day we have 100 youths from the roads selling stuff. Just the imagery of that is powerful. It's revolutionary. It's never been done before. Yeah. So yeah. Just if you wanna be involved, my brother Books is there. Just leave your name and your number with Books, and we'll contact you when we're getting it started. You can come as an investor, and you'll know exactly what child you invested in, and you can come down and also support differently. So we're going to be doing that back to Eden probably, but we want to take it around the country, and when it gets bigger, hire out bigger places, and really show that we are investing in our youth. It's not a talking thing anymore. We are investing in our youth. We're actively doing it. Thanks for having me, family.
What our youth are doing has got to be understood and seriously supported, right?
Come on.
Have we made all of the announcements that need to be made tonight?
No, I've got one.
Yes.
Okay. Can I go on the mic? Thank you. Hello, greetings everyone. So, as part of the program of Professor Bayyinah Bello being here, I present to you the two aspects we've got about history and knowing ourselves and revolution. We're going to do a spiritual revolution. That's my emphasis. Is our connection, excuse me, to divine. And the practical aspects of our culture, our nation, our relationship to our ancestors, and other presences, Orisha, Egbe, and so on. As we know, ritual is key for us. So on Wednesday, next Wednesday the 30th, Professor Bayyinah Bello is going to demonstrate a Vodun ceremony. Some of you may know Ifa and other Kumina and other cultural things from the Caribbean and from Africa. Vodun has had prayers, it's had different versions of what, but what we are understanding in that also is how it is now out of Africa and its survival, its presence, its sustainability, and what we bring to the table. Because Ifa in Africa, in Yoruba land, is looking at us, I and I, for how we are related, because the Orisha are still communicating with us, even though we don't do those setting rituals that they do back home. So the village of our mind, the environment, the language that we would normally see every day, we have to find that for ourselves here. Come on the 30th. There's no Eventbrite. People will be turned away because it's not a massive space. It's a Monks Park Community Cafe in Stonebridge, about 4 or 5 minutes from Stonebridge Station. If you want to buy a ticket from me today, do so today. If it's too full, we will be turning people away. This is a master class. A master class, I repeat, in relation to ceremony. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Great uprising, everyone. My name is Akiba. Wonderful event, giving thanks to all the organizers. I'm part of the Shantichi team, where we conduct the African Storytelling Festival. Can you hear me?
People are talking.
One voice.
One voice. Wonderful. So the Inuago African Storytelling Festival is held yearly on the last weekend of July. So this year is going to be the 27th of July to the 30th of July. What we do is take melanin-rich people into an English countryside and create an African village. We have an African market and we camp. So you might have seen the video, we camp, yes, we camp, because we are here to reclaim our human beingness, as Professor Smalls spoke about. We are here to reclaim our ability to breathe again, and love the trees, eat healthy, take care of our bodies, our minds and spirit and practice our culture as African peoples. And the night walks will definitely be a part of it. Healthy food, lovely African market, business, economics, socializing, melanin richness. Book your ticket, shanty-chi.com. Thank you.
That, I think, is the end of the announcements. I would like to wind up. Traditionally, we do a closing circle. There are too many of us in the closing circle, so what I'd like to do is ask one of these important elders, skilled elders in these matters, to give us some closing, what we call ancestrally relevant words. Stand, please.
We talk about unity, we must also look in the same direction. So let us stand in the same direction here. As we learn from all of our ancestors, the cosmos, that means all the universes put together, the cosmos is ours. We must reclaim. We must mentally conceive, and that is one of the greatest gifts of Voodoo. Every day, as we greet the world, the cosmos, we stand up